I'll send it to you. Okay?
Let's do it.
All right.
From Pekin Community High School in Pekin, Illinois, Clutch Sports Media is proud to present live coverage of Mid-Illini Conference girls basketball. Tonight, the Washington Panthers have traveled to Pekin to take on the host Pekin Dragons. Washington entering this one 4-2, and the host Dragons entering 3-3, but they've won 3 in a row. Joey Wright alongside Matt Harrington. And Matt, the Mid-Illini Conference, when we talk about the girls basketball scene this season, it is topsy-turvy. Everyone's beating everyone, it seems. Morton's down, others are up, including this Pekin team. They host a Washington team that is really good. Both these teams have beaten Morton. How's it going to play out on the court today?
Oh, man, I have no idea what's in store for us tonight, Joey. I think you're absolutely right about how this season has played out so far in the Mid-Illini Conference. Morton has lost a couple of conference games already, and they hadn't done that in about 5 years. So it's all over the place this year, Joey, and I think it's going to be a crazy game tonight. And both these teams, I think, are very, very good. So I think we got a good one in store tonight for sure.
Keep that browser open to ClutchSportsIL.com or YouTube if you're watching us there. Excited to have you in for a good one tonight. It was the gym you're looking at, the floor you're looking at, the Dottie Hawkins gym. A couple of days ago, the Pekin Dragons ended Morton's 64-game Mid-Illini Conference winning streak. 42-39 winner on this floor. And Matt, it's turned out Morton's a little down this year. You know, they had that big winning streak, and they haven't quite had the success they want this season. But nevertheless, to snap a 64-game winning streak, there's almost that cult of personality to get over the hump. Pekin was the first team to do it, and I think that says a lot about the team that they have that we'll see tonight.
Yeah, absolutely, Joe. And I think especially after starting the season 0-3 as well, and now they've won 3 straight games, you have to think that kind of propelled them a little bit so far this season, and I like everything I've seen so far from the Pekin Dragons. So who knows what we're going to have in store tonight, but they've looked good so far after starting 0-3 on the season.
Washington, then another team to beat Pekin. That was one of their 4 wins. They enter 4-2. Take a look at some key players. I want to start with Washington first, Matt. It is Georgia Duncan, 13 in black tonight. She is, just simply put, one of the best players in the area. We saw her a lot last year. She looked good. For Pekin, we're going to keep our eye on a couple of different players. Gracie Kaiser, the junior guard, really stepping up. But you can't forget about Taylor Goss, a Division I committed SIUE, Southern Illinois, Edwardsville.
Yeah, she's coming off of a 15-point effort versus Canton, and also scored 11 in their first game against Canton and had 9 against Dunlap as well. So she's put up some really solid numbers so far this year for the Pekin Dragons, and looking forward to seeing her play. And you mentioned Georgia Duncan as well for Washington. It's just been so good, and only a junior too, so she has been really good for this Washington Panthers team. Both those players should be in good position to have a good game tonight.
Excited to see how it plays out. National anthem coming up in just a moment. Joey Wright and Matt Harrington will pause for it. We are back for the game after this. Keep it tuned to ClutchSportsIL.com. Clutch Sports Media welcomes you back to Pekin, Illinois, the Dawdy Hawkins Gymnasium. Tonight playing host to a Mid-Illini Conference girls basketball battle. The 3-3 Pekin Dragons hosting the 4-2 Washington Panthers. Joey Wright with Matt Harrington. Matt, the starting lineups are being introduced on the floor. We'll give you Washington's, then have you break them down for us. For the Panthers, we will see Leah Jones, number 3 in black, number 10, Claire McDougall. Georgia Duncan, number 13, our player to watch for the Panthers. Lucy Wilson, number 20, and Carly Vaughn, number 23. And Matt, we talk about this Panthers lineup. Georgia Duncan and Claire McDougall, you throw those two in. Leah Jones, also a very good player, and then some youth with Carly Vaughn and Lucy Wilson.
Yeah, a lot of juniors on this roster, Joey, and they only also have one senior, and that's Allie Scrivener. So Washington is a very young team, comprised of mostly juniors in that starting lineup, so I'm looking forward to seeing what they bring to the table here this evening.
As are we all. The Dragons being introduced on the floor, and we'll give those to you as they come out. Lily Wegman is on the floor, number 2 in white, joined by 25, Taylor Goss. Taylor Goss committed to play college ball at Southern Illinois Edwardsville, SIUE. Leah McClanahan walks out to the floor, as does Gracie Kaiser. Kaiser leading scorer for the Dragons this year, and Natalie Riggy, 42 in white. Excited to see the Dragons. And for a while, Matt, it was Taylor Goss, a 4-year varsity player, committed to play ball at the next level, as we've mentioned. Stuck it out through some tough years in this Dragons program, but they've turned the corner this year, and keyed by a lot of youth. They have, and I was talking with Steve Stein before the game, they've got all this talent, but this shortened season, a little unfortunate, but still a very good team.
Yeah, very good team indeed, and you mentioned that shortened season. It's going to be a sprint. Not a whole lot of time left already in the regular season, so it'll be a sprint for sure.
Just like that, we're underway and sprinting out to a hot start. Washington, keyed by Georgia Duncan. Keep an eye on her all game long. Panthers out to the early lead. Now the Dragons' first possession of the contest. Wegman up the court, intercepted, and here goes Leah Jones. Jones feeding down low. Pardon me, that is fed down low to Jones. Jones a little off the mark, and the Dragons haul in the first rebound of the game. And they will try to go up the floor quick. Washington forces him to slow it down. McClanahan here, top of the key. And Matt, the Dragons offense, well, they'll slow it down, and as we say that, a 3 on the way off the mark from Kaiser. Kind of a tale of 2 tempos early on.
Yeah, it was a very nice three-pointer there by Georgia Duncan, like we mentioned, player to watch. And it only took her a few seconds to get on the board with a big 3 there for Washington, and so they've got the early 3-0 lead here a minute into this first quarter.
Foul picked up there by McClanahan, her first personal. First foul of the game. Leah Jones looks at the 3 for Washington, thinks better of it. Thinks better of it again as she tries to go down low to McDougall, and intercepted by Goss. So up the Dragons go, third possession of the game. And again, Matt, they're a little hesitant here. They want to look for the good shot.
Yeah, absolutely. Try to find that open player somewhere, and we'll see what they can do on this possession.
McClanahan to Wegman. She'll try to drive on Vaughn, and Vaughn, good defense there. Up top again, and Pekin and Goss. Back to Goss, and up to McClanahan. Panthers' interior defense looks good early, Matt.
It does indeed, and they're slowing them down, certainly not giving them any lanes to shoot, except there.
Well, you got to create your own look, and how about that from Leah McClanahan? First points of the night for Pekin. Junior guard gets it done. Georgia Duncan, fellow junior, goes to work as the Panthers swinging around the world. Fed to Duncan, now up top to Lucy Wilson. And Wilson finds McDougall. McDougall to Vaughn. And there's an open look for Duncan just off the mark. So Pekin hauls in the rebound. And an open look for McClanahan in the corner. And out of bounds, Washington will take over. Shout out to our entire crew as we get into the first quarter. John Michaels on our camera, Matt Harrington in addition to providing color commentary for us, is also on our computer tonight. Taking care of that right now.
we're a little short-handed tonight, so we'll. I'm trying to watch this game, but also want to make sure we have a good production as well.
Georgia Duncan lays it in on the offensive end for Washington, and Matt Harrington, just to give you an idea how hard he's working, we forgot to plug our laptop in. Almost died on us, but he's going to keep it juiced up for us. So
we don't want to have that happen, that's for sure.
Certainly not. Out of bounds, no, pardon me, a foul on Washington. And that will be the Panthers' first foul of the evening.
I think what we're going to see here, Joey, in this Pekin offense throughout, just from seeing them the first couple minutes, is slowing that tempo down, like you mentioned. That's one of the advantages that you get at the high school level compared to the college or NBA, where there's a shot clock. So look for a lot of patience in the Pekin offense.
Certainly has not been a very fast-paced game yet. Both teams have done a couple of quicker things on the offensive end, mostly Washington, but we're keeping the pace pretty steady here as Pekin drives in. Off the mark was Riggy, pardon me, and Panthers get it ahead. It's Duncan. Duncan looks and finds Wilson. Wilson's three just off the mark. The rebound hauled in by Goss. Goss coming off a 15-point effort against Canton. And finishes on the offensive end.
Really nice job there to get to the hoop and get the bucket right there.
That Canton win for Pekin, one of 3 in a row after 3 early losses. 3 on the way from number 3 in black. Washington's Jones misses it. And the Dragons run off the mark. McClanahan. Rebound corralled by Washington and the Panthers, looking to build this 1-point lead. Stopping and popping and dropping it in, Carly Vaughn. Carly Vaughn has had a nice evening thus far. And Pekin looks to respond. And Pekin has been so adept at responding. That is a little off the mark. Riggy hauls in the rebound, and that will take us to our first mask timeout of the evening. And we'll take this time to remind you that tonight's coverage is brought to you by Jake Weston State Farm in Washington. For your insurance needs, call Jake at 309-444-4441. By Zach Butler State Farm in Pekin on Derby Street in Pekin at sfbutler.com or at 309-347-3115. By Uftring Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram in North Pekin. From Wranglers and Grand Cherokees to Rams and family vans, you'll always get a better bottom dollar at Uftring Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram, UfteringPekin.com. And by Uftring Chevrolet in Washington. When you're shopping for a new Chevy in Central Illinois, visit the heart of Chevy country for selection, savings, and more for your trade. UfteringChevy.com. A big thank you to tonight's sponsors. Matt helping to bring our coverage to viewers all across Central Illinois and really all across the United States. Wherever you want to tune in, you can do so for free, ClutchSportsIL.com.
Yeah, absolutely. And early on, Joey, it's been a good one so far. Not, like you mentioned, not a very fast-paced game so far. We only have 11 total points on the board combined between the two teams. But I've noticed that Pekin has started to pick up the tempo a little bit offensively their last couple possessions, so we'll see if that continues. But early on, a 7-4 lead here for these visiting Washington Panthers.
One thing I noticed from Pekin, and you know, we can't get too ahead of ourselves. It's 7-4 with 3.5 minutes left to play in the first quarter. But every time Washington has gone down and scored, Pekin has had an answer for that.
They have, and that's going to be one of their keys to keeping with them in this game.
Washington going down low to McDougal, and McDougal, what else would you expect from her, laying it up and in. Claire McDougal, a player we saw so much of last season, stepping up for the Panthers early on. She's only a sophomore, so 2 years of varsity ball, but she's made a big impact for the Panthers. Gracie Kaiser, now McClanahan. McClanahan, 4 points in Pekin's most recent win against Canton. And it'll be a 3 from Kaiser. A little off the mark there. Kaiser, Pekin's leading scorer. We'll touch on that in a moment as Georgia Duncan looks for an opening. Didn't have it, but she's going to kick it to Vaughn, and Vaughn can't quite connect. Offensive rebound for Washington there. And offensive rebounds, Matt, that'll take any defense out of a game. McDougal doesn't have the basket there, and Washington forced to kick it back out.
It will take the defense out of a game, Joey, and that's going to be a big key for Washington here tonight, is grabbing those offensive boards.
So here's Carly Vaughn. Vaughn down low, and Georgia Duncan will take it up strong and get the finish.
Excellent pass there from Vaughn as well, finding the open teammate and gets to the rim for the score.
So here's Pekin and a quick three on the way and in. Count it for Gracie Kaiser. And Gracie Kaiser, will tell you now, has scored double figures all but twice this season, led the team in scoring in all but 2 games, comes off 18 against the Little Giants.
That was the response you were talking about, Joey, though. Pekin trying to get another bucket here.
And what a block there. Wegman tried to go up for Pekin, but that was McDougal there on the block. And we'll see, not our first substitutions, Matt, but among our first substitutions tonight. Addison Kimmler is in for Washington, and it marks the return of Leah Jones. McDougal and Vaughn to the bench. Trying to attack from up top Pekin, but again, that Washington defense has held strong all night.
They have indeed, looking good here early on in this first quarter.
Pekin, the 7 points coming on a couple of well-selected shots. Up top is McClanahan. Lucy Wilson comes out to guard. And McClanahan kicking to the corner and Wegeman. Leah Jones, nearly the steal. Pekin there, pardon me, to recover. And out of bounds. Heads up play from Leah Jones, Matt, to force the steal and ultimately, I guess you can't quite say the steal, but ultimately the turnover.
Yeah, you get the possession back, and they've got the lead in this game too, and those are the kind of defensive possessions that they need to keep it going. So excellent job there by the Panthers.
Duncan is out for Washington. Catch who came in for her in a minute, and Riggy is back in for Pekin. So keep an eye on those. I believe into the game for Washington. Well, no, Kimmler's been in for a moment. No, it's Madeline McGinnis fresh in for the Panthers.
Goss is also off the court now for Pekin, so we'll see how that affects the Dragons here in the first quarter.
Kaiser will pull up a three and got it. And Gracie Kaiser, you know, we talked a lot about Goss. We've talked a lot about Kaiser too, but that's what you get from Gracie Kaiser.
Yeah, excellent three there. Patience was really good, and nice job by Pekin. Now they're only down by 1 here late in this first quarter.
Up strong. Washington, McDougal couldn't finish. And Pekin, Matt, with 30 seconds left in our first frame, could take the lead for the first time tonight.
They could. We'll see if they decide to hold on to it here or drive like that.
And a foul. First free throws tonight coming up, and it'll be Wegman at the stripe.
A good job to get to the hoop and draw the foul here by Wegman. We'll see if she can knock down 1, 2, or none of these free throws. We'll find out.
One would tie. It's on the way. And there's the old broadcaster's jinx, shall we say. We'll have to wait for the second one. Carly Vaughn coming back in for Washington for Leah Jones. And Kaiser is off for the Dragons. We would expect a quick return. And Georgia Duncan in for Kimmler for Washington.
Yeah, both Vaughn and Duncan have had good starts for Washington so far in this game.
Talking about good starts, it was a good start to the season for Wegman. This is the second free throw, but opened the season with 10 points in a loss against Dunlap. No double figures since. 3 points against Canton. And Washington will retake a 3-point lead. Claire McDougal. Pekin will have the final shot of the quarter if they want it. And a quick three on the way, just off the mark. Rebound Washington. And I think Georgia Duncan might have wanted the last shot, but ultimately decided to dribble it out and in the first quarter of play. 13-10, favoring the Washington Panthers. And we will take this time to remind you that tonight's coverage is brought to you by Jake Weston, State Farm in Washington. For your insurance needs, call Jake at 309-444-4441. By Zach Butler, State Farm in Pekin on Derby Street in Pekin at sfbutler.com or 309-347-3115. By Uftring, Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, Ram in North Pekin. From Wranglers and Grand Cherokees to Rams and family vans, you'll always get a better bottom dollar at Uftring, Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, Ram. UfteringPekin.com. And by Uftring Chevrolet in Washington. When you're shopping for a new Chevy in Central Illinois, visit the heart of Chevy Country for selection, savings, and more for your trade. UfteringChevy.com. Entering the second quarter of play, Washington 13, Pekin 10. Matt, what were some of your takeaways from that first quarter? I know it was kind of a tale of two tempos, although I feel like anecdotally, nothing to back this up, in the second half of that first quarter, Pekin picked it up a little bit.
They did. I did notice that as well, Joey, that they picked up the pace offensively and started to use the fast break a little bit more to their advantage and picked up a couple points off that. So we'll see if that's how they decide to approach the second quarter as well.
Pekin had a chance to take the lead a possession ago. Didn't go their way, but they could tie it here with a 3. We'll see how they play it. Kaiser has it along the perimeter, and Kaiser going back to Goss. Goss guarded by McGinnis and traveled on her way to the rim.
A little bit just too much there on the travel, so ref caught it, and we'll go back down to the other end here.
And on that other end, the inbound coming from Carly Vaughn. I believe in Carly Vaughn wearing 23, I believe, and I'd have to go back and look at this, and you wouldn't know the answer. I believe 23 was worn last season by Ellie McDougal. Curious to go back and see that. Off the mark, Washington and Claire McDougal, and up go the Dragons.
That's one of those possessions, Joey, that I think Washington would certainly like to have back. And tight game early on. We'll see if that comes back to haunt them maybe later on.
McClanahan for Pekin. Finds an open Goss. Goss guarded by McGinnis. And she'll go to work on McGinnis. Nice move. Nice find, and a 3 coming from Wegeman. And off. A lot that Goss did there in that possession that tells you why she's committed to play at the Division I level. Panthers swinging around. Would have been an open 3 for Lucy Wilson. Didn't take it. And now a pass down low. Fired in and back out. 3 on the way for the Panthers. Can't quite count it.
Both teams have had really good ball movements the last couple possessions, Joey, and unfortunately just can't get those buckets to fall.
McClanahan running point for the Pekin Dragons here. If you're just joining us, it's been a pretty even game to this point. Neither side able to mount a huge lead. Panthers have a fast break. 2-on-1 opportunity. Goes back to Vaughn. Vaughn feeds to Duncan, and Duncan just off the mark. And Pekin again could tie it. We have not seen a basket here in the second quarter.
They're getting open looks, though, that's for sure.
Certainly are. Or if we have seen a basket, right, it hasn't been, it's just been the one from Washington. Pekin has not scored. They'll look to do that here. It's Goss up top. Goss again guarded by McGinnis. That's been the matchup to watch last couple of times down the floor. And trying to attack. Now McClanahan. McClanahan is blocked by McDougal. Gets it back. Can't quite put it in. And McDougal will come away with it. Now here's McDougal. She'll try to go coast to coast, and she is blocked off of Pekin, so it'll stay with Washington. Talking about Claire McDougal, she has made a couple of big plays on the defensive end. Go back a couple possessions, and she had that big block down there.
Yeah, I was just going to mention that. She's been playing an excellent defensive game right now for the Washington Panthers and trying to make something happen on offense here, too.
Turning around and dropping it in is McDougal. And McDougal now putting the Panthers ahead by 5. We'll get you updated scoring statistics at halftime coming into the third quarter.
It would be helpful if they put it on the scoreboard.
It would. In a lot of places you get that, but and the thing with trying to keep score yourself is, you know, you miss a basket early, and then at that point you might as well wait for the official tally.
It just goes downhill from there. So
mask timeout coming up, and as with the other mask timeouts, we'll take this time to remind you that tonight's coverage is brought to you by Jake Weston State Farm in Washington, Illinois. Jake Weston for all of your insurance needs. Call Jake at 309-444-4441. By Zach Butler State Farm in Pekin, Illinois, on Derby Street in Pekin at sfbutler.com or at 309-374-3115. Zach Butler for your insurance needs. Also brought to you by Uftring Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram in North Pekin. From Wranglers and Grand Cherokees to Rams and family vans, you'll always get a better bottom dollar at Uftring Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram. UfteringPekin.com. And by Uftring Chevrolet in Washington. When you're shopping for a new Chevy in Central Illinois, visit the heart of Chevy Country for selection, savings, and more for your trade Visit offspringchevy.com today. And a big thank you to our sponsors as we welcome you back in to a 15-10 lead for the Panthers. About halfway through, coming up on halfway through our second quarter. Joey Wright and Matt Harrington with John Michael alongside. Matt, it is a very relaxed atmosphere in this gym. There are fans for Pekin. Pekin has a contingent of home fans, no fans for Washington, but despite a couple of big plays for the Dragons, they're just kind of hanging out.
Yeah, I mean, this is, like you mentioned, you were telling me this before we got on the air, that this is one of the largest gyms in the area, and I think when you don't have many fans or limited fans like we do have here, that certainly plays a factor in the environment overall. But it's been a relatively even game so far, and with Washington up by 5, we'll see if they can maybe break it open in a little bit here.
Yeah, and anecdotally, we don't have the seating capacities handy, but this is probably the biggest room we will be in for a Clutch Sports Media broadcast in Central Illinois. It is just a cavernous feel, especially with some bleachers pulled out, some not. Washington attacking and looking for Vaughn. Now McDougal. McDougal looking back to McGinnis. And Lucy Wilson and company, they'll swing it around. Now Vaughn will attack. Vaughn has a lane, and she's got the score. Puts the Panthers ahead by 7.
It's a really good possession right there by the Panthers, patient with it. And then they get it to Vaughn, who drives it to the rim for the easy bucket.
7 points, largest Washington lead tonight. But Matt, as we talked about in the first quarter, every time Washington's gone down and done something, Pekin has been quick to respond, although in the second quarter, I guess that they haven't scored yet, so we'll need to get back to that here. Riggy has it up top, nearly tapped away by Vaughn, and Vaughn, look at that hustle. She'll force the tie-up, and the arrow will stay with Pekin, but what an effort from Carly Vaughn.
I think she called a timeout, actually, Joey. That was what the whistle was for, and you saw her pointing to head coach Kimberly Barth. That is an incredibly heads-up awareness play right there. An excellent job to get it, and Washington keeps possession. Unbelievable.
Makes the play all the better, right? And yeah, that was what the whistle was for, a timeout Washington. So a heads-up play from Carly Vaughn will keep it with Washington. Arrow would favor Pekin, next jump ball, so we'll keep an eye on that. Matt, I'll tell you about the foul situation right now. 2 fouls for Washington's Leah Jones. Those are the only 2 fouls for Washington, and Pekin only with 1 foul. I believe that was on McClanahan earlier. So it's been a pretty quick first half, right?
Has.
I mean, we've seen a couple stoppages for blocks and things like that, but very few fouls.
Yeah, and part of the fact that this has been such a quick half is the fact that teams are taking their time in the offensive end and looking for open players to slow it down a little bit.
Pass intended for McDougal, and that sailed out of bounds, so there's a stoppage in play, but again, not for the foul. I was just getting ready to say, I almost guarantee that possession was going to end with a foul, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Talk about it.
Announcer's jinx.
Possession's not over. They'll say that pass was tipped, actually, so could still see it. Panthers inbound, and an open 3. It'll end with a shot, and it will end with an in and out. And an offensive rebound, so the possession stays alive. 3 came from Wilson. And Wilson's got it back. Now it's Vaughn on the assist from Duncan. And there's an airmail pass. Pekin will take over now. Intended for Wilson, and those will happen over the course of a game, of course. Just pass was a little too high. Yeah,
uncharacteristic mistake, though, by the Washington offense. I mean, they've moved the ball really well for the most part here in this first half. So a turnover there. And like you mentioned, Pekin has been able to take advantage of Washington's mistakes so far. We'll see if they can cash in here.
Pekin still looking for its first points of the second quarter. Washington has gone on a nice little run, but the Pekin defense, as Matt said, has kept them alive. They've had a lot of answers. It's McClanahan up top, guarded by Wilson. And McClanahan now putting it into motion. Playing catch along up top with Gracie Kaiser. Now Kaiser to Teskasha, goes back to Goss, and Taylor Goss's 3 just a little off the mark, poked loose by Pekin on the Washington rebound, but the Panthers recover and go up with McDougal. And McDougal tried the lane, didn't have it. Going down low to Kimler, and Kimler off the mark.
McDougal almost traveled there, but was able to plant her feet, get the pass off. Unfortunately for the Panthers, can't score though.
Two very well-coached teams, Brett McGinnis for Pekin and Kim Barth for Washington. Won't see a lot of mistakes like traveling, and that goes back to coaching. McDougal able to find her footing and get out of the tough situation. Down low to Goss. Goss to an open McClanahan. Now we go back up top to Kaiser, and Kaiser drops in the three. A big answer for Pekin. It's first points of the second quarter, but because of the defense, it's a 4-point game.
They needed that three right there, Joey, and they got it. And now we need to have a good defensive possession here.
Duncan was off the mark, but an offensive rebound, and it's back in her hands. Now it's Claire McDougal, and McDougal calls out the offense. 2-possession lead for Washington. And up top to Lucy Wilson. Now Wilson back to McDougal. Matt, do you think, there's a minute left, do you think the Panthers would hold that thought as they'll take a three? You knew where I was going. They decided not to hold.
Yeah, exactly. They didn't. And feels like they've been getting open looks, just can't get anything to fall so far from deep.
Taylor Goss couldn't get that one to fall from deep. Eric Schermerhorn and the Washington boys basketball team, they might have held for that final shot.
Yeah, they might have, and we'll see what Washington does here with 35 seconds to go in the second quarter.
Well, they try to go down low, and right on cue, out of bounds pass intended for Kimler. So now this gets into interesting territory, Matt. Of course, no shot clock in the IHSA, and no opportunity for a 2-for-1. If you're Pekin, down 2 possessions, do you hold and try to end this half with a shot?
I think you got to try and get some points on the board here, Joey, because you mentioned they hadn't scored at all in the quarter until that last three a couple minutes ago. So we'll see if they decide to. It looks like they're going to try and get an open look here, but nice job defensively.
Washington's defense there again, and that was McDougal. Nearly her third big defensive play of the game. We're inside of 5 seconds left in the half. Trying to go baseline. Pekin, pass back out of bounds as time expires. That pass was intended for a cash-up. And as the clock expires, 17-13 at the end of the half. Matt, that was an interesting second quarter, to say the least. You know, we had a pretty good back and forth in the first quarter. Some scoring on both sides. Pekin went cold in the second. And to sound like a broken record, the defense kept them in. They hit a big shot, and they go into the locker room down 4.
Yeah, I think if you look at the way they played, though, Joey, in that second quarter, only 3 points. I think they're lucky to only be down here by 4 at half. And they played a good quarter. It just was about cashing in the buckets when they needed to, and they couldn't up until they got that big 3 late in that second quarter. So overall, this has been a good game so far. Pekin is certainly alive still, only down by 4 at half, and I think we got a good second half coming up for sure.
We certainly do. 9:40 showing on the board, and you'll be able to count down to the second half at the bottom of your screen. We'll take one more time before halftime to thank tonight's sponsors, starting with Jake Weston State Farm in Washington, Illinois, for all of your insurance needs. Jake Weston is your guy. Give him a call, 309-444-4441. A lot of 4s, last number's 1. Jake Weston State Farm. And also in Pekin is Zach Butler, State Farm in Pekin. Zach Butler's your guy. Give him a call, 309-347-3115, sfbutler.com, or on Derby Street in Pekin, Illinois. Glad to have Zach on board tonight. And we'd like to thank Uftring Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram in North Pekin. From Wranglers and Grand Cherokees to Rams and family vans, you'll always get a better bottom dollar at Uftring Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram. Visit UfteringPekin.com today. And by Uftring Chevrolet in Washington. When you're shopping for a new Chevy in central Illinois, visit the heart of Chevy country for selection, savings, and more for your trade. UfteringChevy.com. Uftring Chevrolet in Washington, Illinois. Joey Wright along with Matt Harrington and John Michael on our camera. We'll take a quick break for halftime. Count down to the second half, bottom of your screen. 17 for Washington, 13 for Pekin. We'll be back with scoring leaders, a breakdown of the first half, and more. You're watching Clutch Sports Media's coverage of Mid-Illini Conference girls basketball. from Doughty Hawkins Gymnasium in Pekin, Illinois. Clutch Sports Media, happy to be back in with you for the second half of a Mid-Illini girls basketball showdown. The host Pekin Dragons are trailing the Washington Panthers 17-13 at the halftime break with Matt Harrington. I am Joey Wright. Matt will run down our scorers from the first half here to start. Not a ton of diversity in the scoring, shall we say. 3 players for each side. Gracie Kaiser leading Pekin with 9. 2 points from Leah McClanahan and Taylor Goss apiece. So that's how the Dragons have arrived at their 13. For Washington, Georgia Duncan with 7 points. Claire McDougall has been big on defense and big on the scoreboard as well with 6. And Carly Vaughn with 4 points for Washington. And one more note real quick on Gracie Kaiser, 9 points for Pekin. Those come on 3 threes.
Yeah, she's been really good from behind the arc, and Dragons will probably try and go to her again, I'm sure, from behind the arc here in the second half.
Dragons start with possession here in half number 2, back underway, and driving in is Kaiser. They go back to Kaiser. She mixes it up a little bit in a couple of ways. We'll see some nope, they'll call that on the floor. Looked initially like it was on the shot. My point there being we haven't seen a lot of free throws tonight, but mixes it up in the other sense that she tries to attack inside.
Yeah, haven't seen a lot of free throws at all. I believe just the 2 so far for Pekin back in the second quarter.
Pekin on the inbound again up top, and Riggy over to Wegeman. Wegeman a ball fake and a feed down low, out of bounds, another block. This time Taylor Goss the victim. Didn't catch who blocked that one, Matt, but I want to point out Claire McDougall has been, it was Leah Jones on the block. Claire McDougall has been so big on defense for the Panthers. Would not be shocked to see her rack up a couple of more blocks and steals in half number 2.
She has definitely, Joey, been the best defensive player on the floor for either team so far in this game. So, yeah, you're absolutely right. She's been fantastic.
Clanahan to Goss. Goss baseline, and free throws coming up here from the Southern Illinois Edwardsville commit. Goss with 2 points tonight, but as we mentioned in the first half, comes off 15 against Canton. 2 wins against Canton, part of 3 wins in a row for the Pekin Dragons. And what started that winning streak as the first free throw falls was, of course, the big win against Morton in this building a couple of nights ago. Prior to that, they had lost 1 to Morton and dropped 2 against Dunlap. But, of course, if you were with us last Saturday for Metamora and Dunlap, that is a very good Dunlap Eagles team.
It is, and they've got some really good players. Sophia Remmel, I believe, as well, was fantastic. I mean, they've got talent all over the place there at Dunlap.
Remmel scored 35 against the Dragons. Excellent point, Matt. That's a season high for her. And it's a rarity at the high school level when you see someone get into the 30s. That was an excellent performance, one of the best players in the area. Pekin has brought it to within 2 on the 2 made free throws, and Washington will try to respond with Leah Jones, and Leah Jones does just that. Answers with a big 2.
I thought Jones was going to shoot the 3 there, but decided to step inside the arc and still was able to knock down the bucket.
Leah Jones, the junior, stepping up. Lead back to 4 where it was at the start of the half. Pulling up Goss, a little too strong. McDougall the rebound, and the Panthers will run. Leah Jones again, just a step inside the arc, falls to the floor. McDougall cleans it up and will go to the line.
Good job by McDougall to draw the foul there, and you see that rebound kind of just fell right into her hands and goes up and gets the foul, and now Washington's got a chance to extend their lead even further here, up 4.
First free throws this half for Washington. First is off the mark from Jones. Or pardon me, from McDougall. McDougall with 6 points tonight. A silent gem as she misses the second. And we'll see what the Dragons offense has in store. Dragons coached by Brett McGinnis. Washington coached by Kim Barth. Mentioned earlier, a very well-coached matchup. 3 coming from McClanahan. That will fall in. Leah McClanahan, a big 3. And Matt Harrington, it's a 1-point game in Pekin.
It is indeed, and patience right there from the Pekin Dragons, able to cash in on the 3-pointer.
5 points now for McClanahan. McDougall down low. Dragons defense is there. The give to Kimmler. And McDougal again trying to go to work on Riggy. Steps back, doesn't have it. And Duncan didn't have the rebound, but it was last touched by Goss.
I think the refs are going to talk it over here. You saw that back referee come running in, and they're going to reverse possession here and give it to Pekin. And that was a very nice job by the official to talk things over. He had a better angle, clearly, than that first official that made the call. So good job to talk and get it right.
Always a little tough to see from our angle. Referees have the best look at it on the floor. And I want to give a word, Matt, real quick, to our referees. You know, in this pandemic-shortened season, is McClanahan a little strong on the three? You know, being a referee already, there's some parts of the job that might seem unsavory to some. It's tough to get out there and do it. A well-called game tonight. I just want to thank our boys in stripes tonight. Yeah,
they do a terrific job. And like you mentioned, the pandemic has certainly made things harder. And, you know, sometimes you'll have screaming parents yelling at you, even in this season too. Yeah. But they do a terrific job. And like you said, it's been a well-officiated game so far here tonight.
It's been a very clean game. Only 6 fouls to this point, I believe, when you tally up the halves combined. A couple more here in the third quarter. Pekin looking in Wegeman. And McClanahan looks to attack. No, she'll kick it out to Kaiser. Kaiser to Riggy. And again, Pekin looking for that shot. They've been very selective tonight. It's Goss up top, guarded by Jones. Looks, nice move, up strong, no foul, and up we go with the Panthers.
That's Leah Jones on the block again there and avoids the foul.
Leah Jones has stepped up on defense this half. McDougal, who stepped up on defense in the first half, up strong there, no basket, but the Panthers get an open look from Jones, and that's just a little bit off. A lot of good hustle plays from the Panthers, Matt. We'll get on that in just a moment after this break. That was Addison Kimmler there for Washington. And we'll tell you that tonight's coverage is brought to you by Updring Chevrolet in Washington, Illinois. When you're shopping for a new Chevy in Central Illinois, visit the heart of Chevy country for selection, savings, and more for your trade. UpdringChevy.com. Updring Chevy in Washington by Updring Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram in North Pekin. From Wranglers and Grand Cherokees to Rams and family vans, you'll always get a better bottom dollar at Updring Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram, UpdringPekin.com. By Zach Butler State Farm in Pekin, Illinois on Derby Street in Pekin at sfbutler.com or at 309-347-3115 for all of your insurance needs. Zach Butler State Farm in Pekin. And by Jake Weston State Farm in Washington, Illinois. Jake Weston also for all of your insurance needs. Give them a call at 309-444-4441. Easy number to remember, Matt. 309, bunch of fours, last number's 1.
There you go. You might have the easiest number to remember in the entire area. So appreciate their support of Clutch Sports Media as well.
Absolutely. And Zach Butler, first time he's on with us tonight. Derby Street in Pekin, Illinois, sfbutler.com, or you see his number there, bottom of your screen, is 309-347-3115. And Updring, all of their locations. Updring Chevy tonight, Updring Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram. As you know, I bought my car Updring Nissan.
That's right,
so happy to have Updring aboard tonight and beyond. As we get back to the action. And the Pekin Dragons offense, down 1. Could take the lead right here. McClanahan on the way, not quite. And here's Washington, Leah Jones. Jones and McClanahan. McClanahan will pick up the foul. That'll be on the floor, of course. No effort to shoot it.
I really like the way that Leah Jones has played here in this second half, Joey. Just a nice job at both ends of the floor. You saw the block earlier, and they're able to draw the foul and keep this possession alive for Washington.
Dragons force the turnover. Again, right as you say that, they in the possession with
the
turnover.
The announcer's jinx is all over the place tonight.
It's a very real thing, folks. Here's McClanahan. McClanahan guarded by McGinnis. And the Dragons offense creates some motion. Goss just a little bit off on the 3. McDougal hauls in the rebound. And the Panthers will run and gun. They were the first to the offensive end. That doesn't fall. Rebound McGinnis. McClanahan there for some trouble, and a give to Georgia Duncan. Duncan, who leads all Panthers scorers with 7 points. Now That's Leah Jones. Jones, a bullet to the corner. And McGinnis to an open McDougal. Panthers being patient now, and as McDougal takes it in, a foul is called. That'll be on the floor.
Will be on the floor indeed, but you're seeing the patience right now with this Washington offense, and they're going to wait until they have an open player. And right now we got a 1-point game with them obviously up by 1, and I think we're going to see a lot more of this patience throughout the game. They're not worried about the score as long as they can stay in front.
Inbound and a quick shot from Washington, just off the mark. Lucy Wilson out of bounds, and the Dragons ought to take over.
I believe we have a foul here actually, Joey.
So that'll stay home with Washington. That'll be the 4th foul against Pekin and the 2nd against Wegman. Inbounded to Vaughn, and Vaughn to Duncan. And here's Wilson. Wilson guarded by Wegman. And a jab step. Nice move there from McGinnis. And Matt, the Panthers have really toned it down here in the second half. We saw a lot of up-tempo looks from them in the first. Not seeing that there as it's finally initiated from McGinnis. McGinnis is blocked.
Yeah, that felt like that possession lasted several minutes practically, and that was definitely the longest possession of the game so far for Washington. And unfortunately can't come up with any points, and so they remain in front by just 1 here, and of course that can change with this Pekin possession.
Inside, and there's Pekin driving in and scoring. How about that finish from Taylor Goss? Now has 6 points on the evening.
That was really impressive from Goss, and saw a lot of her in that first quarter, not so much in the second, but gets to the basket with ease there.
More importantly, Pekin has its first lead of the night, 20-19. See if Washington can get us into this year or beyond with a make here. And they will go for 2022, didn't have it. And McDougal nearly hauled in her own rebound. Looked like she was about to go for the dive and decided to tone it down, and wisely so. The bleachers were coming up quick. Pekin will take over. Chance to build a lead for the first time tonight.
Yeah, this possession I think is going to be critical here, Joey, for these Pekin Dragons. And I mean, you think about it, you get a 3 here, you build a 4-point lead. It's a nice spot to be in against this Washington team.
Minute 15. Matt, do you think it's too early to consider holding for the final shot?
I would think so too. Yes, Joey. I think they should try and get another basket here, and they attempt it right there.
They'll go for it. McClanahan just a little bit off. And now Washington, they're going to run and gun. It doesn't look like they'll hold for the final shot. They certainly won't. Duncan puts Washington back ahead. Into this, here we go.
The aggressiveness pays off there for the Panthers. They're back in front by 1.
Folks at home see it as 21-20. The scoreboard we're looking at has 20-21.
You were waiting for that, weren't you?
I was ready. And Pekin wants the lead back. They don't have it. Rebound, Duncan. Duncan hauls in a physical rebound. A lot of bodies there. And Washington with an open McGinnis. McGinnis puts the Panthers back ahead by 3.
Excellent awareness there on the floor by Claire McDougal to find the open teammate and cash in for the bucket.
20 seconds left for Pekin. McClanahan to Kaiser. Kaiser to the corner, and Tess Kasha, name we've called a little tonight, goes to McClanahan, and Leah McClanahan off. 5 seconds left for Washington. Saw a buzzer beater last night in Peoria. We'll see if we see one here. 2-1 at the horn is Duncan on the way and in. And that basket will count for Georgia Duncan.
Oh, wow, what a bucket. And how about the finish to the quarter, Joey, by Washington? They were down 19-20, and they get the last 7 points. What a finish, and that was a terrific sequence there for the Washington Panthers.
Georgia Duncan answers the call. It's a big 3 for the junior. And it puts Washington ahead 26-20, entering our 4th quarter of play. Matt, so we saw that third quarter was interesting. Didn't see a lot of scoring from Pekin in the second quarter. They turned it on in the third, took their first lead. But out of nowhere, there's Washington, and they go back ahead by 6. They were down 20-19 just a moment ago.
Yeah, I don't think you could have drawn up a better finish to the quarter for these Washington Panthers, and they were terrific in that last minute or so, moving the ball really well down the floor, and big 3 there at the end. Buzzer beater just got it off, I think, with about .3 left on the clock. So that was a nice bucket, and for the second night in a row on Clutch Sports Media. Buzzer beater to close out the quarter.
It was Nathaniel Hoskins for Danville High School boys basketball last night. Drained an 80-footer.
Oh, that was impressive.
To beat the first quarter buzzer. Not quite that range from Georgia Duncan there, but nevertheless, in the context of this game, that might be an even bigger play. And, of course, a very nice play to start with. Unofficial scoring totals, Duncan right now sitting at 13 points. Keep you updated on that as we go along. It's Leah Jones for Washington as the Panthers trigger the first possession of the fourth quarter. In the corner is McDougal. And McGinnis, guarded by Kaiser. Tried to go for McDougal, out of bounds, it rolls.
That's a tough possession there for Washington. And that I believe this was their largest lead of the game, 6 points, and that could have really opened it up. Or excuse me, the largest lead was 7. That could have opened it up even further.
Pekin and its first possession of the fourth quarter. Nice screen from Riggy, setting up Goss. Goss is fouled. They will call that on the shot, so 2 free throws coming up for Goss. And again, unofficial scoring totals, Matt. We were run and score ourselves tonight. Taylor Goss with 6 points. Believe that to be accurate, looking for 7 and 8, but more importantly, the context of the game, of course, could make it a 4-pointer.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a big first free throw made right there from Taylor Goss, and she's been really good in this game, and you see why. She's a Division I commit to Southern Illinois University Edwardsville in the Ohio Valley Conference.
Off the mark is Goss. That's her first miss in 4 attempts tonight. The Ohio Valley Conference, not a bad basketball conference.
No, not at all. Some really good teams in that conference too.
Washington an empty trip, and here's Pekin. 7 minutes to play, as you see on the bottom of your screen, and McClanahan to Goss. Goss, see if she gets another screen from Riggy. Nope, she'll go the other way and look for Wegeman in the corner. Wegeman back to Goss. Goss will stop. Can't quite pop it. And a rebound and a foul. Washington corralled it, and to be more specific, Lucy Wilson hauled it in. And a foul against Pekin. That will be their 4th.
Good possession by the Dragons there. And bucket didn't fall, but they're moving the ball really well here to begin this fourth quarter. And only down by 5, so there's still a lot of time left. And we saw them come back earlier from deficits as well. So a lot to like so far from the Dragons in this fourth quarter.
Dragons down 5, and we'll correct that. That was the 5th foul against Pekin, so keep an eye on that because the bonus is fast approaching. That was the first foul on Natalie Riggy as Leah Jones. Nice shot from the block.
Made it look easy, too.
Dropped, and we could hear the swish from up here. 7-point lead. That's around Washington's largest mark of the night. Nearly stolen, but Wegeman is there. Wegeman to the corner. And back up top to McClanahan. McClanahan centers it up. Now we're with Goss. Goss is guarded by Jones. Panthers tonight without Allie Scrivener and Clara Berg, but Leah Jones has stepped up nicely, as have Lucy Wilson and Carly Vaughn.
Yeah, Jones in particular, I think, has been really good for Washington so far here tonight. And foul there for the Panthers, but still maintaining a 7-point lead here, 5:48 to go.
Big possession for Pekin. And the Dragons looking. Screen from Riggy again. We go away from there and up top to McClanahan. McClanahan guarded by Wilson. Now goes to Goss. She's guarded by Jones. Goss sets it in motion. She's going to split the defense, scores, and a timeout called by Pekin.
That was impressive stuff right there from Taylor Goss. I mean, she totally juked out those defenders, and I mean, that was probably one of the best possessions we've seen so far from Pekin. The patience pays off. Now they're within 6 points here. Or 5, excuse me.
Yeah, it's hovered right around that mark, and Pekin down 5. Timeout from Brett McGinnis. Quick 30-second timeout. And Matt, do you like the timeout there? You know, you got the basket, trying to lock in that momentum.
Yeah, I do like the timeout, Joey. I think it gives your players a chance to breathe for a moment, but at the same time, you realize, hey, we are in this thing with just a 5-point deficit and can talk things over, how to run it defensively, and I do think it's a good timeout decision by the Pekin Dragons.
See how it plays out. 5:22 left in the fourth quarter. There we go. Spaced. Want to give you a final score update. War on I-74. Illinois State over Bradley tonight. Men's basketball 88-71.
Not good.
Not good. Certainly not.
I think a lot of Bradley fans are ready for the season to be over.
It's been tough sledding. Now 5-11 in the Valley. Larry Larson. And the reason we bring that score up over there at Carver Arena tonight. Big member of the Clutch Sports Media team. Washington a big possession here. Stopping, not popping, Georgia Duncan, and the rebound Pekin. Easy rebound, and the Dragons will have a little breathing room taking it up, and they'll use that for a three just off the mark from Kaiser. McClanahan back up top, and she'll try to put the moves on Wilson. Quick three there from the Dragons.
Yeah, and that would have been big if they would have made it. Now, unfortunately, they get a turnover, and this is going to be a Washington ball here. Except we're going to have our mask timeout here with 4:31 to go in the fourth quarter.
Some call it the mask timeout. Some call it the media timeout, and we will use it as our opportunity to remind you that tonight's coverage is brought to you by Uftring Chevrolet in Washington, Illinois. When you're shopping for a new Chevy in Central Illinois, visit the heart of Chevy country for selection, savings, and more for your trade. UfteringChevy.com. By Uftring Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram in North Pekin. From Wranglers and Grand Cherokees to Rams and family vans, you'll always get a better bottom dollar at Uftring Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram. UfteringPekin.com. By Zach Butler State Farm in Pekin, Illinois. For all of your insurance needs, Zach Butler is your guy. He's on Derby Street in Pekin. He's at sfbutler.com or 309-347-3115. And by Jake Weston State Farm in Washington, Illinois. Much like Zach Butler, for all of your insurance needs, call Jake Weston in Washington at 309-444-4441. And Matt, we have a little fun with that number. Pretty easy to remember. A lot of fours and a one.
It's the easiest number to remember, I think, here in the area. So just remember the area code 309, and you got them on the phone.
Yeah, exactly. Glad to have Jake Weston aboard. Zach Butler, as you see on the bottom of your screen, you've seen him all night long. He is your guy, 309-347-3115. And Uftring on board tonight with Uftring Chevrolet in Washington and Uftring Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram in North Pekin. Out of the timeout, 28-23, favoring the visiting Washington Panthers. They will inbound, and Matt, it's a big possession here. You know, really, this possession could swing the game. Pekin's been hanging in there, but Washington could put it not away, but make it hard.
There's your turnover right there, Joey. They needed that.
And a quick foul here as Natalie Riggy tried to drive it up.
It's a good awareness by Riggy there, too, drawing the foul. And not in the bonus yet for the Pekin Dragons, but they maintain possession and a chance to cut into this deficit.
Next one would put them there for either side, both teams with 5 team fouls. So we'll keep our eye on that. Wegeman has it for Pekin. Now it's Kaiser. Kaiser will swing to Riggy, who goes to McClanahan, and now back to Wegeman. Wegeman guarded by Duncan. And a nice feed down low, nice dish out to the perimeter. 3 on the way and short, and that's been the story of Pekin's last couple possessions, Matt.
It has. They just haven't been able to cash in, and it's a shame because that was a very good ball movement possession by the Dragons.
Now Washington and Leah Jones. Jones guarded by Wegeman, and a nifty pass to Duncan. And Duncan gets it back. We hit the 3:30 mark in a second or two. Washington could make it an 8-point game with a 3. They won't take that there, at least not yet, from Lucy Wilson. Wilson guarded by McClanahan. Now in the corner, and Leah Jones. Jones guarded by Kaiser. Double team came. Washington travels. That was McGinnis looking for Jones. And a big travel there, a big turnover. Pekin, though, has failed to capitalize the last couple of trips down the floor. What do you think they need to do different? I think it's a lot of quick threes, I think, that would jump out to me.
Yeah, certainly. I think the biggest thing right now is you just have to find that open player and cash in. They've been able to find the open player the last few possessions, just haven't been able to get these buckets to fall, and we'll see what they get on this possession.
So whether it's a 2 or a 3, best available shot.
Yes, got to get the best available shot, take the points. That would have been a huge bucket, but unfortunately doesn't go.
That was not a bad look from Taylor Goss. Good defense from Washington late, but the right idea. Here's Claire McDougall. McDougall now out to Jones. Jones with a nice move and a foul called. And if I'm not mistaken, Matt, that'll put us in the 1-and-1 bonus. It's against Pekin.
Looks like we're going to get a timeout here on the floor.
Quick 30-second timeout coming from Washington. That is against Pekin. It's against Lily Wegeman. It's her third. Wegeman, as we mentioned earlier, opened the season with 10 points against Dunlap. Has not hit double figures since. Scored 3 points last time out against Canton.
Feels like we've been stuck here, Joey, at 28-23 for quite a while, and it's obviously not a good thing for Pekin as they try and come back in this game, and only 2:37 left on the clock, so they're going to have to get something going on these next couple possessions. Otherwise, they're going to be in trouble.
The old stuck on a number situation, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
One more, and we're in the 1-and-1 for Washington. My apologies. Nevertheless, we're getting close. Pekin with 6 fouls, Washington with 5.
I think if you're Pekin, though, too, you'd want to be in the 1-and-1, slow that clock down a little bit. Now they're going to have to try and get a steal here or something.
See how long Washington can run down this possession. Wouldn't surprise me if Washington's able to hold the ball a little while, then Pekin would have to foul, but you've got to figure they've probably still got enough time to force a stop here.
Yeah, they do, and you've seen they're playing very aggressively on defense, and there's the intentional foul, it looked like, from Leah McClanahan.
So Brett McGinnis and company decided they didn't want to wait, and that's perfectly fine strategy, too. You want to be in a situation, and we see it so often, where you force a miss on the first free throw and leave it from there.
Yeah, with only 2:12 on the clock, too, that was a decision that you have to make, and the intentional foul comes into play, and turns out it worked for Pekin, just can't grab the board.
Would have worked if they had grabbed the rebound. Offensive rebound for the Panthers. Duncan has it now, Jones. Jones will attack. She'll try to go to McDougall, and the Panthers, you don't want to say no will to score, but you can tell they're content running out the clock. There's a foul.
Ooh.
McDougall hits the floor. She'll get up and assisted up by Riggy, and who was that for Pekin? I believe that was Kaiser over there. Good sportsmanship moment.
It looked scary, though, for Claire
Yeah.
McDougall. She went down hard to the floor, and like you mentioned, though, that last possession, if they could have grabbed the rebound for Pekin, that would have been huge, and now this can pretty much put it away, you'd think.
And McDougall capitalizes on the first, and that's another thing, with the 1-and-1, you've only really got 3 chances to use it and hope for a miss on that first free throw. Second free throw on the way from McDougall. She hit them both. Does Pekin need a 3 here, Matt, or is it too early to think that? Or
I think you can get away with 2 here, but you got to move fast. So, and if you can't get anything, then you have to go with that 3.
There's a deep 3 from Goss, short and out of bounds. That was Kaiser who tried to keep it in.
Felt like a little bit of a rushed possession there, Joey, and they had the open look, but would have liked them I would have liked them to try and find something open, but nonetheless, it could be something that costs them as they are forced to intentionally foul again here.
And this will be, as that's the 9th foul for Pekin, this will be the last time we see Washington in that 1-and-1 situation. With 2 makes, it's a 9-point game. Either way, still a 3-possession game if you assume a miss on the first.
You got a good free throw shooter, though, here, too, in Claire McDougall.
McDougall just hit them both. First is on the way, and the jinx is off that time. Knocks it in. That would be, numbers are unofficial on the scoring, but that's 9 points for McDougall tonight. Make it 10. And unofficial, we say, it's at least 10 points. It's got to be more than that.
She's been automatic from the line. Perfect 4 for 4 there in that last sequence.
And Pekin with a big opportunity to respond. It's poked loose by Jones, still loose. And a foul there against the Panthers. They had one to give. That'll be Lucy Wilson, pardon me.
Looked like Goss, when she was trying to grab that ball, looked like she was going to try and call a timeout as well there for Pekin, but they maintain possession and are able to draw the foul.
So here's Goss. Panthers out of fouls to give, and a 3 on the way, off the mark from Jones, from McClanahan. And Washington in the driver's seat here late. Up goes Duncan, and a foul as she took it across the timeline.
Yeah, Goss was trying to get the intentional foul there, and it didn't look like she got it, and then player went up a little bit, and then Goss got called for the foul a little bit late there from the official, but it is a foul, and we should pretty much do it, I think, here, Joey.
First free throw in from Duncan, and yeah, Matt, you never want to write a game off, but with the Panthers ahead now by 10, could be 11.
Yeah, you saw a great comeback nights ago.
Yeah, it was in Washington and Morton boys basketball. Panthers were down 11 inside of 3 minutes to play and came back and got the win. Dragons have some work to do here. Here's Goss. Goss goes up, and a pair of free throws coming, so that's where it will have to start.
Yeah, you need to knock these down here if you're Taylor Goss, and this is where if you're Pekin, can't have any more mistakes. It's got to be a flawless game from here on out.
See if they have anything left. It's Goss at the line, in on the first free throw.
It's a start.
That's right. It's got to start somewhere. Wegeman is in. Riggy is out for Pekin. Goss, second free throw on the way and in. So Pekin going with a little bit more of a shooting-oriented lineup here. Second free throw fell. Here's McDougal. McDougal to Jones, and the Panthers trying to run out the clock. They're going to make the Dragons come to them. Inside of 50 seconds left. Good passing here. Good passing, and there's the foul. McClanahan fouls Jones.
Washington did a really nice job there with the ball movement to prevent the intentional foul from coming. And for Pekin, that's just a little bit too much time drained off that clock. And so now you're going to have an opportunity here for the Panthers to pretty much finish this one out.
Stands at 8, make it 9 on the make from Jones. Jones tonight with at least 3 points. And it will stay at that unofficial mark for the time being. And how about that from Washington? What a play. Claire McDougal keeps it in. She was a big defensive presence in the first half, continued to be in the second half, and that's what we talk about, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, she's been, in my opinion, has been probably the best player on the floor tonight, and draws a foul there, it looked like. And, I mean, you just see the talent, Joey, on both ends of the floor. I mean, she's been so fun to watch and is a big reason why Washington has the lead that they do.
34-25, inside of 40 seconds left. And McDougal back at the line, off on the first.
This has been a low-scoring game, though, too, Joey. I mean, 34 could win it.
Yeah.
I mean, it's been very low-scoring.
34-25. We'll see what the final ends up, but yeah, 35 could win it. It's been a defensive battle, though. You know, we look at the scoreboard, we see maybe a lack of scoring, but it's been good defense.
Yeah, both teams have done well defensively.
And there might be the exclamation mark from Washington. Talk about defense. There it is, Lucy Wilson and Maddie McGinnis. And Madeline McGinnis is fouled. She'll go to the line in the double bonus. That may be the last foul we see from Pekin. You know, we'll see how they elect to continue this, but you like the effort, and you like the effort on defense there from Washington to set this sequence up.
Certainly, and we'll see if Washington can drain these free throws and miss the first one, and here we go again with that announcer jinx. So we've had all sorts of issues with that here tonight, haven't we?
It's got to be 4 or 5 times tonight, right?
I think we're even higher than that,
it
6 or 7 maybe?
It seems that way. We'll have to go back and count them. That free throw is in because Matt didn't say anything before it was on the way.
There you go.
36-25 may well be our final. We'll see what Pekin does on this possession. No such jinx there. On the way, not there. We'll see. 10 seconds left, and the Panthers will run it out. So 36-25, likely the final score in Pekin. And Lucy Wilson will hold it. She will run out the clock, and that will become our final from Dottie Hawkins Gym in Pekin, Illinois. It's a 36-25 winner for Washington over a good Pekin team. That will end Pekin's 3-game winning streak. They'll fall to 3-4. Washington soars to 5-2. Matt, final takeaways. We talked about that they're late. Low scoring. Not a complete lack of scoring, but good defense was, I think, the key for me.
Yeah, absolutely. The defense was really good, and I think when you look at the Washington side of things in particular, Leah Jones had a really good block, and I mean, overall, the defensive game for Washington and Pekin was really good. But I think what Washington did to win this game was go on that little mini run. I believe it was at the end of the third quarter where they were up 27-20, and I mean, overall, it was a very, very impressive performance tonight by these Washington Panthers.
Certainly was. Unofficial scoring coming up here in just a second, but first we will tell you that tonight's broadcast has been brought to you by Uftring Chevrolet in Washington, Illinois. When you're shopping for a new Chevy in Central Illinois, visit the heart of Chevy country for selection, savings, and more for your trade. UfteringChevy.com in Washington, Illinois. Uftring Chevrolet by Uftring Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, Ram in North Pekin. Wranglers and Grand Cherokees to Rams and family vans, you'll always get a better bottom dollar at Uftring Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, Ram. UfteringPekin.com. Zach Butler State Farm in Pekin on Derby Street in Pekin, Illinois at sfbutler.com or 309-347-3115. Big thanks to Zach for sponsoring our scoreboard tonight. Jake Weston has done so a couple of times this season in Washington. Jake Weston, your guy. Visit him at 309-444-4441. Jake Weston State Farm for all of your insurance needs. Matt, final takeaways from tonight.
Well, overall, Joey, I mean, this game was quick moving, and we saw that a lot because of the defensive possessions and teams holding they're waiting for the open players, and I mean, overall, it was a really good game for Washington, and you never felt like, I mean, this scoreboard, I think, doesn't reflect the game for Pekin. I mean, they were in it for most of this game, so overall, I really like the way that they played, and you get better and learn from it. Unfortunately, the losing streak comes to an end for Pekin at 3 games, but there were things to like about their game and a lot of things to like about Washington too, obviously, with the win here tonight.
Certainly were, Matt. 36-25, our final score tonight. For John Michael on our camera, Matt Harrington at the controls and on color, I'm Joey Wright. That's where we'll leave you from the Dottie Hawkins Gym on this chilly Thursday evening, although as it starts to warm up, feels like summer out compared to what we had last couple of days. Washington a winner, 36-25. This has been a presentation of ClutchSportsIL.com. Join us tomorrow night in Peoria, Manual hosting Bloomington in a Big 12 boys basketball battle. Until then, stay safe.